So what happens when you end up in Monterey, California at a place called Ideas Camp, surrounded by some of the world's top technology people, and you stumble upon somebody that you've been hearing about since you were a kid, who's not only talking technology, but he's also talking music and a whole way to revolutionize it? Well, that's kind of what happened just a few minutes ago. And I found my old friend Cindy Gomez along with Dave Stewart. Now, you were both on stage, you were performing, it was beautiful, the crowd loved it, but you also talked about the new business model. I'm curious, where are you going with this?
Well, basically, years ago when the walls came down and the internet arrived, there was all this kind of furor amongst the entertainment industry, like, how do we stop it? It's like trying to put your finger in a dam and suing people, taking people to court.
Right.
And slowly they started to realize, oh, this thing's not going to go away. And since then everybody's been trying to work out, well, how do we create the new model? Because we used to manufacture things and distribute them, and that's where our revenues came from. And then Steve Jobs came along and said, oh, look what I've made, probably cost about $10 million or something. And he said, look, it works, iTunes and all the labels. And we'd be like, oh my God, this could help. This could help save the world. But basically, it's much deeper than that. It's much further out there than that. Basically, what's going to happen is all artists, creators, and anything from magazines to filmmakers like Ridley Scott to musicians will start having a world, a little world. And that world will be the portal into everything that they create and anything that they might want to tip their or nod their head to and say, this is great, I love this, whatever. And what that needs is a huge rights management system in between. And so the front end, you'll have a cell phone, possibly a Nokia cell phone, and you'll have a rights management engine, and at the back end you'll have a payment system. Now, it isn't that everybody will pay for stuff. There'll be millions of different kinds of models, ad revenues, people will be subscribing, some people will pay a la carte. It doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, there will be a gatekeeper who just realizes, oh, this person was standing on this street in Boston and they pressed yes to Tom Petty's track, and this has rights owned by, blah, 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 blah. A digital sweet wrapper will unfold and go pling, pay all those people, and Tom Petty at the end of the day, if you wanted to, would look and see, oh, somebody was standing on the street in Boston and they liked my song and bought it.
So if this is sitting on the phone, and you mentioned Nokia, it feels like you're developing all of this in conjunction with the artists as well as with specific sponsors. Where does Nokia come into play, and how does that sponsorship come into play?
I came up with this word, sponsibility, which is basically what used to happen. I think the Rolling Stones were the first band that ever got a sponsor that paid for their tour. It was a perfume company that approached the Rolling Stones in about 1970 or something. And then sponsorship was frowned upon a bit, and then it became a necessity for artists to survive. They couldn't tour or anything without having some sponsors. But eventually, this sort of, the way the internet is broken down into tiny little niches, worlds, that are now called web pages or whatever, that need micro sponsors, like mini sponsors, and all of these issues are becoming easier and easier to sort out with the way that software works. And companies like Nokia are at the forefront of developing ways and means in which people can connect with each other and retrieve media and play with it and send it. And in the middle of that, they're also very clever at understanding how to sort of make a revenue model, a revenue stream that works for everybody. So I can't really talk and give too much away about everything, but basically the thing is on the way. He knows.
I know nothing.
Do you now? Oh, come here. I'm going to get on
nothing.
you in a second.
I'm under the strictest NDA. I'm under Dave DA.
Now, this man also invests in vitro companies, so...
Dave, neither of us can keep a job. Always got a good one with Nokia.
Yeah, okay. All right. So, are you comfortable with working with a sponsor? I mean, you're an artist, you're a pure artist. I've known you for a while, and it's always been in your heart to be able to write your own songs, sing it as best you can, and really have that interaction with the audience. Now we're talking about bringing in sponsors and working on phones, and I mean, how does that feel to you?
I think it's a great idea because in today's day and age of new technology, and it's just so difficult for a new artist to emerge onto the scene and to break out. So you need these new ways to have people recognize you and see who you are, because otherwise how are you going to get for myself, how am I going to get the music out there? At the end of the day, I do what I do because I love it, but you want as many people to hear it. And so, for example, right now I'm an avatar in a game Nokia has called Dance Fabulous. So this allows people now in Asia and all across the world to hear these songs and play them. And
they are songs.
Yeah, and there's songs, and there's a couple, like 2 or 3 of them that out of the 5 that are going to be on my album. So it just allows people to see who I am. You know, albeit that is the cartoon version, but at least they get an introduction into who Cindy is, what kind of music she does, and from there on, you know, either they hopefully like it and check out websites and go further, but otherwise, you know, a little kid in India, how are they going to know who Cindy is? So I think it's a great way to get the two worlds together.
So I've known a few people that have actually received Nokia phones, and when they turn on the device, boom, there you are. And it's like, who is this girl? What's she all about? Now they can also play the game and the avatar and whatnot, but how do you keep it authentic? Because as we all know, I mean, at the end of the day, you're artists, right?
Well, you see, sorry.
I think the artist keeps it authentic. Like, we do what we do because we love it, and you know, having the sponsor is just a way of getting out to the world, but it's not, we're not doing something that we don't want to do. We still continue our art because we love it and we do it.
So it's just a distribution mechanism?
I
and a way to get paid?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you know, years ago people would say, oh, I'm in a band, I have to sign a record deal, it must be with EMI. Right, I signed to EMI. Well, EMI, well, they basically made rockets and missiles and all sorts of things. Television sets, Sony make all sorts of different things. So, you know, it became very apparent, well, it doesn't really matter if it's like Timberland boots sponsoring or putting out your music on their website or whatever. But what we're really talking about is not really about that. What we're talking about is creating a new way in which to connect all the dots, and so that you can have a new, you know, railroad track or a gateway that disintermediates lots of the old guard and creates a new railroad track, basically. So the interesting dots that's connecting with Cindy is an incredible singer, and she sings in 8 different languages, including Hindi and Cantonese. So what we're doing is, you know, she's sung in some of these languages, but then I've written a little story where the game inside the Nokia phone is found by a boy in India in a movie. So now Cindy's playing the lead in the movie, and the song from the game is the title of the movie, and she's doing the music with myself and A.R. Rahman, and we've just been doing some of that in the last few days, and so it's a continuation of people discovering Cindy. Oh wow, she's that girl in the game, and now she's the lead in the movie of where the boy finds the game, and it's all her songs, all coming out in all different methods.
So with this new business model, to what extent is the artist going to have to know about the business side of things? Is the mechanism going to be in place where it kind of takes care of itself and you can just focus on being
that's
you,
the main
or?
thing. Is well, that's what we want, is a way in which an artist or an artist manager or, you know, a friend or whatever can get these tools, a toolbox, build the little world, fill in the bits, and from then on it works just like clockwork. And because artists are not good really at focusing on business, you know, if you have a business meeting with an artist, usually after 2 minutes they're doodling a picture of their dad, or, you know,
You're not talking about yourself.
No, I'm not talking about myself. That's because I'm a schizophrenic. But